Major breaking news. Kamala Harris has released her gun control policy list on her website. We need to go over this. She's talking not only about a lot more gun control, but she's also talking about, quote unquote, reforming the United States Supreme Court, which means essentially packing it with anti-gun liberal jurists that don't like America. Let's break it all down when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of the brand new best-selling book, Israel Disarmed: What the 10/7 Attacks on Israel by Hamas Teach Americans About the Right to Bear Arms. We must always remember the importance of having a private, firearm-oriented, self-defense-focused Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Otherwise, we stop being citizens and become serfs or worse. Check it out in the book Israel Disarmed on Amazon. All right, folks, major breaking news. We have Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee to be the next president, has released finally, in anticipation presumably of her debate against Donald Trump, a list of policy proposals, including extensive gun control, including, yes, gun bans. You heard me right, folks, gun bans. Specifically, this is what she writes about her anti-gun agenda. As head of the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention, Kamala Harris spearheaded policies to expand background checks and close the gun show loophole. Under her and President Biden's leadership, violent crime is at a 50-year low, with the single largest single-year drop in murders ever. As president, Kamala Harris won't stop fighting so that Americans have the freedom to live safe from gun violence in our schools, communities, and places of worship. She'll ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, require universal background checks, and support red flag laws that keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. She will also continue to invest in funding law enforcement, including the hiring and training of officers and people to support them, and will build upon proven gun violence prevention programs that have helped reduce violent crime throughout the country. That's what she says about gun control. But again, it gets worse, because then she talks about how she wants to change the Supreme Court with term limits and all sorts of other things that are clearly unconstitutional. Here's what she says about changing this terrible Supreme Court in her mind, because, of course, they don't let her do anything she wants, such as, let's say, unlimited gun control. Let's check it out. This is what she writes. Kamala Harris will also support common sense Supreme Court reforms, like requiring justices to comply with ethics rules that other federal judges are bound by, and imposing term limits to address the crisis of confidence facing the Supreme Court. So let's just talk about some of these proposals. The first is, of course, she's talking about closing the so-called gun show loophole. This is utter BS. There is no such thing as a gun show loophole. You know this. If you have a federal firearms license, right, you're an FFL, you are required to do a background check on anyone you transfer the gun to, right? That is your job. It doesn't matter whether or not you sell a gun in your the backseat of your car, in your gun shop, at a gun show. It doesn't matter where you do it. If you're an FFL, meaning you're in the business of selling guns for a living, you have to run the background check. There is no such thing as the gun show loophole. What's really going on here, of course, is that she wants this so-called universal background check system. But here's the key to understand about this danger associated of a universal background check system. What they're trying to do is to create a nationwide, complete registry of gun owners and guns. Because, as you know, when you complete a Form 4473, you're not just disclosing on that form your name so they can run a NICS check to make sure that you're not a prohibited person as defined by federal gun control law 18 U.S.C. 922G. No. On that Form 4473, as you know, you have to include your name and information as the gun owner, but you also have to include the make, the model, and the serial number or numbers of the gun or guns that you're buying pursuant to that transaction. If this is all about, and this has been my complaint about Form 4473s the whole time, if all the purpose of these background checks is to make sure that you are not a prohibited person, why is it that you need to disclose on that background check form the make and the model and the serial number of firearms? We know why, because the anti-gun movement and the government would like to know who all the gun owners are and where all the guns are, where all the guns are. So when they talk about universal background checks, they want you to complete these forms. So anytime you loan a gun to a family member, you sell a gun, you give a gun away as a gift, whatever it is, in any respect, they want to force you to fill out that 4473 form that discloses the names of the people involved in that transactions, i.e. the gun owners, as well as the information about the guns, i.e. the guns, so you can have a gun owner registry as well as a gun registry, which is a total no-no. It's unconstitutional for a bunch of reasons, which I should do a separate video on. And also, of course, it's just very dangerous because if the whole idea is to make sure that we have guns to prevent all forms of tyranny, including potential governmental tyranny, which is what the Founding Fathers were concerned about. Well, you don't want the government to know where all the guns are, and you don't want them to know where all the gun owners are, right? Because once they know where the guns are and the gun owners are, they can go get them. And of course, there's lots and lots of examples of this throughout history, the most famous of which, or the most infamous of which, is written about by Stephen Halbrook in his book on gun control in the Third Reich, where it was the Weimar Republic that put together the gun owner list and the gun list, the gun registries. And then the Nazis came to power and they got the lists that were compiled initially by the Weimar Republic government. And then they got the list and then they went about and disarmed those people they didn't like because they were inconsistent or they didn't like the Nazi regime. They weren't friends of the Nazi regime. So we don't want anything like that here. No guns, no gun registries, nothing like that. So when they talk about universal background checks, that's what they're talking about. But let's go beyond this. Kamala Harris then, of course, proposes an assault weapon ban. Now, we understand that anything can be an assault weapon. An assault weapon is just something that is used to commit an assault. It could be a baseball bat, could be a candlestick, could be a gun, could be your fist. Any of these things are assault weapons if they're used to commit an assault. But what she's talking about is not an assault weapon ban. She's talking about an absolute ban on rifles at a minimum. Now keep in mind that when she's talking about assault weapons, she's talking about all rifles, right? Now, they like to pretend there's a particular type of rifle, but no, what we're really talking about are semi-automatic rifles. Semi-automatic rifles and then some. Okay, that's how they want. They want all the rifles and they want all the handguns too, but they can't get them right now because of the Supreme Court's decision in 2008 in the Heller case. But they at minimum want the rifles, right? They go from rifles are good, handguns bad before 2008. They lose the Heller case that says you can't ban handguns. And ever since then it's been handguns are good, rifles are bad. Even though only a few hundred people are ever killed with people using rifles in a given year. Now, we don't want any homicides in the United States, obviously. But when you're talking about only 200 to 300 people a year are killed with rifles in a homicide situation, why is it that they're so desperate to get these 20, 30, 40 million semi-automatic rifles and rifles of all types taken and right, and confiscated? And by the way, this proposal doesn't say that she wants to ban the sale of these rifles or these quote-unquote assault weapons. She wants to ban the weapons themselves. So she's not just saying you can keep the guns you have, we're going to ban new ones. No. It's not like the Hughes Amendment with machine guns says you can keep the machine guns you got, but we're going to ban new ones. No. She wants to literally ban all assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, which, of course, they don't define. So this is an outright ban, which means you would have to give back your guns, your rifles, to the government. That's what she plans. And of course, when you talk about high-capacity magazines, they don't define that because to them, a high-capacity magazine is anything that fires more than one round. Now, they won't tell you that, but don't forget, when New York passed the SAFE Act, right? When they initially passed the SAFE Act, I think they required no more than 6 or 7 rounds. You hear what I just said? 6 or 7 rounds. And only when they realized there were some mechanical problems associated with that, no need to get into that history there, they basically moved it to, I think, 10 rounds in the state of New York. But the point is, remember, Kathy Hochul, a prominent New York governor, who apparently had a Chinese spy working for her, according to allegations and criminal complaints. Kathy Hochul literally said, after the Supreme Court decided Nysurpa versus Bruin in 2022, that she was willing to go back to muskets, which, of course, are single-shot firearms. That's where they want to go. And if you ever look at the famous speech by Beto O'Rourke that says, hell yeah, we're going to take away your AR-15s and your AK-47s, that statement is crazy enough. But to me, the most telling part of that statement by Beto O'Rourke was that when he said that, the entire massive audience of Democrats in that DNC presidential debate, as I recall, that's what it was, they all stood up and cheered. That tells you where the Democrats are on gun bans. They want to take the guns away because they want to convert you and they want to convert me from being American citizens, self-reliant, independent American citizens. They want to convert us into serfs, or worse, they want us to be totally dependent upon and relying upon the beneficence of government. And last but not least, they want to bring back red flag laws. They want to impose nationwide red flag laws. Now, let's be very clear about this. Red flag laws are a euphemism for getting around due process. Today, for the last many decades, if you are established to be a violent danger to yourself or a violent danger to someone else, you can be taken to court in a civil commitment process. And after a trial with lawyers and expert witnesses and medical records and mental health records and cross-examination, the full 10 yards, if you will, all the due process protections, and you're found to be, by clear and convincing evidence from beyond, a danger to yourself or a danger to somebody else, you can be involuntarily civilly committed. Now, this has been the law for literally 50 plus years, for decades. So if we already have a process in place to take, not only take guns away from someone, but to actually put them in a mental health institution to get help, why do we need red flag laws? And we know the answer. Because over the last 40 to 50 years with the civil commitment process, there's robust due process protections that have been developed to make sure that you cannot be deprived of your freedom without all this protections for your rights. Because they don't want to put you in prison and they don't want to put you in a mental health institute unless you really are, it's really established there's a problem with you. Something's happened, right? There's something wrong with you, right? They want to make it very clear. Red flag laws are a shortcut method to just take away the guns. Remember my view. If you're too dangerous to be out on the street with a gun, then odds are you're too dangerous to be out on the street, period. But the red flag laws are designed for only one part of America's population, if you think about it, right? The only remedy associated with red flag laws is taking away someone's guns. So if you don't have guns, if you're not a gun owner, if you don't care about your Second Amendment rights and you don't want to exercise your Second Amendment rights, that's fine. You're an American, you can make that choice. But red flag laws have no meaning to you, right? You can be a total psychopathic nut job, and red flag laws will have no bearing on you because they only deal with taking away guns. So why don't they, again, the reason what red flag laws is specifically designed to create essentially a secondary court system with no due process to just take away the guns. So you can be crazy and violent and a psycho, and they're just going to take away the guns, right? But you'll still be out on the street. Of course, the whole purpose of the red flag laws is simply to disarm ordinary Americans with false reporting and comments made by people, your neighbors that don't like you, local political leaders that don't like you because they don't like what you said at the town hall meeting or city council meeting, or political opponents, or people that don't like the fact that you put a Trump sign out front, or you put a sign out front that says, in this house we believe that the ATF is a mafia, whatever, right? They want to disarm you because, remember, this is not about public safety, in my opinion. This is not about stopping criminals from doing bad things to people. They want to disarm us because they want us to be subservient to them. They want us to be serfs and subjects and not citizens, right? They want to be able to do whatever they want to us. And the easiest way to accomplish that, or step one, a necessary condition to doing whatever they want to us, okay, is by first and foremost disarming us, making us vulnerable, making us helpless, if you will. That's where they want us to be, helpless. So we have to go mother may I to the government for protection, and that's our only option. And at that point, whatever they want to do to us, they can get away with, because what can you do about it? The answer is you'll be able to do nothing. And our founding fathers understood this dynamic, and that's why they gave us an entire Bill of Rights, including the right to keep and bear arms. That's the harsh reality and the correct one, and I support completely the intent and the goal of the founding fathers here to make sure that our individual fundamental human liberties are not violated by any form of tyranny, whether it be a tyrannical government, street thugs, terrorists, even violent animal attacks, as I've written about before. It doesn't matter. Guns are there. Arms are there to protect us from all forms of tyranny, including, yes, potential governmental tyranny. And the last point I want to make in this video is they want to reform the Supreme Court because what they really want to do is destroy the current Supreme Court. They want to pack it. They want to add a bunch of anti-gun, anti-American liberals to the bench, because they don't like the fact that we have a Supreme Court that is following the law and respecting the Constitution. Now, we may not always agree with what the court does, but the fact is, it's clear they've taken the Constitution seriously. They're trying to get it right, and they're not just partisan hacks ruling in favor of government, which is what would happen if the liberals ever get control of the Supreme Court. Because for many decades, the Supreme Court was controlled by left-wing activists who didn't care about the law or what the statute said or what the Constitution said. They just wanted to make sure that the left-wing progressive agenda was advanced. They thought that was good policy, and the courts were there to make sure that we became liberals even when we, the people, rejected it. That's how we got gay marriage in America. No one wanted gay marriage in America. It was rejected all across the country, including in Congress, and somehow the Supreme Court foisted that upon us because they thought it was a good idea in a 5-4 decision. Nevertheless, that's what they want. So they're really just, they want the Supreme Court to be reformed, to be changed, but they can't get away with it because Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution says that these jobs that are given to the Supreme Court justices are for life. You can't cut their salary and you can't take away their offices. So I don't think term limits can work constitutionally, and I don't think any of these other ideas can work constitutionally. But again, that is exactly what Kamala Harris wants to do. She wants to create a set of judges who will rubber stamp anything that a Democratic politician wants. It will be a rubber stamp court. It will be fake law. It won't count. It will be no different than the show trials in Nazi Germany or the show trials in the Soviet Union. They will be rubber stamps of government power to do anything they want to American citizens if Kamala Harris gets her way. That's my opinion. All right, folks, hope you learned something here today. Make sure you follow me on X at 4Boxes Diner, and we'll see you again very, very soon, I hope, here at the 4Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.